What's up, guys, and welcome to another video of Dev Talks with your host Travian, where we talk about everything engineering and technology wise. And this video is actually slightly different. This is more science than anything, but it takes some type of technology and engineering to do something like this. So dire wolves are back. Never thought we had today, but let's go over this. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and let's just dive into this real quick.
The howl of a dire wolf hasn't been heard on planet Earth for more than 10,000 years. That's because the species is extinct, or was. Colossal Biosciences is a Dallas-based company that's using genetic engineering to de-extinct long-gone species. And this is the first time Colossal's dire wolf pups, who are now 6 months old, have been seen by the public. Hey Ben, it's Jeff Kluger from Time Magazine. A pleasure to meet you. Tell me a little bit about what the goal is for de-extincting and rewilding ultimately. Why are you doing this work?
It became abundantly clear that we need new tools and technologies for conservation. And so we thought this was a really cool way that we could create value, create impact, inspire people, and then also hopefully thoughtfully rewild some of these species, which apparently will also have ecological benefits to these different potential ecosystems.
To try and do that, Colossal needed to understand dire wolves at a genetic level. The company has documented the...
So, one of the reasons why growing up and watching movies, you'd be like, oh yeah, some stuff's gonna happen in the future, yada yada yada, and things. What movie would you guys think that we're getting closer to now? If we're bringing back dire wolves in a sense, right? And they're gonna give out more information on this. I've kind of seen this video ahead of time, and it's why I wanted to cover it and have a real conversation about it. Um, what movie do you really think of at first? Like, so for instance, like with Figure and all the robots nowadays, like especially with X1, you think of movies like iRobot and having a robot in everybody's house and home, and then what are the potential risks of doing something like that? And you look at what happened in that movie, and then everybody became prisoners in their own homes and things. Uh, the first movie that comes to my head is Jurassic Park and Jurassic World. When you start playing with stuff, people are going to want dinosaurs. What do you want a dinosaur for? They'll probably try to find a way. And this doesn't just stop at just wolves or regular animals. Like, there's so many different things you can do with genetic DNA and things like that, especially if you get a better understanding of which each geno is. But let's just continue on and see what they're going to show us in this.
The process from the beginning and shared this footage with Time for a cover story. So can you tell me a little bit about what went into engineering the dire wolf?
We extracted DNA from two fossils that we knew from previous work had some amount of preserved ancient DNA. One was a 13,000-year-old bone, and the other was a 72,000-year-old bone, an inner ear bone. We were able to generate two genomes, two direwolf genome sequences from that, which we then compared to all the other wolves for which there's already been data generated. And when we do that, we want to figure out where it is that these two dire wolves are similar to each other, but different from the other wolves that are out there. And so we come up with this list of genes where they're distinct. Now, our goal in the dire wolf project, just like with all de-extinction projects, is to re-engineer the core traits, the core characteristics that made these extinct species unique and able to fill whatever role that they filled in their ecosystems when they were still alive.
Using this knowledge, Colossal then made 20 modifications to 14 genes in the DNA of common gray wolf cells. These relatively few tweaks to the genetic code produced some big differences. The dire wolf's white coat, large size, characteristic vocalizations like that howling you heard at the beginning of the story, and more. That DNA was transferred to denucleated egg cells, meaning cells without their own genetic material, and then developed into embryos and were then implanted in the wombs of surrogate mothers, who were hound mixed dogs.
We didn't know.
So when you think about like this genetic stuff in a sense, the first thing that I thought about, which is also kind of scary, is like for a while they've been talking about cloning a bunch of different animals and things in that regard. Like, what if we just clone like pigs or whatever? Like give an example. Um, what if one day they start getting to the point that they allow the cloning of humans? Or, and basically how that would work in a sense is like each one of us has our own genetic makeup and things. And like literally, if you were able to extract our whole DNA, a whole person's DNA, you could theoretically create an embryo of that same exact person, but I don't think any of their memories or anything would stay the same. You would just create a whole clone version of them. And that's actually kind of crazy if you can see like multiple of the same person walking around, but they all think differently, especially if you put them in different scenarios in life and give them different stuff. I wonder how that person would end up actually. It's a crazy theory. I'm pretty sure something like that's not going to be legal anytime soon. They only tend to mess with this with other types of animals, but it is something that just crosses my mind, especially the way that I think. If you follow this channel for the longest, you will see all the different types of crazy stuff that I just can come up with and think of, especially on the spot, and in hearing different information and things in that regard. Well, so messing with genomes and DNA in a sense are very, very tricky of a thing, and they're gonna go through it in a second. So I don't want to spoil everything, but when we get there, I definitely want to have a further conversation on that as well too. But that's crazy. It's cool that direwolves are back. I've always like been a big wolf person, a direwolf person. If anybody watched Game of Thrones, you know House Stark, in my opinion, was one of the best houses to exist, and especially when they all got their own direwolves, it gave each one of the siblings way more personality. And I also heard that George R. R. Martin, the person who wrote Game of Thrones, he actually got an exclusive visit to be able to visit these direwolves as well too. I believe when they are pups, which was a dope thing to see. But yeah,
How big these embryos would grow. We wanted to make sure that the surrogate was healthy. So we picked large dogs.
Romulus and Remus, named after the Roman mythological twin brothers who were raised by a wolf, were born on October 1st, 2024. And in January, they were joined by a younger sister that the Colossal team named Khaleesi. Each wolf is on track to grow to as large as 6 feet long and 150 pounds. Colossal isn't planning to reintroduce them to the wild. Instead, the 3 dire wolves will live out their lives on a fenced 2,000-acre preserve. Colossal does not want to disclose this location in order to protect the animals.
makes
I
sense.
think these are the luckiest animals ever. They will live their entire life on this protected ecological reserve where they have all sorts of space and they have natural denning environment and they have a inclement weather hut that they can go and hide out in if they need to. They have 24-hour veterinary care.
Dire wolves aren't the only species on Colossal's de-extinction agenda.
An American company says it has genetically engineered mice so that they have developed some traits like mammoths.
A small but potentially important step in a quest to eventually bring back the prehistoric woolly mammoth.
They hope to de-extinct the woolly mammoth as early as 2028. The company is also hoping to bring back the dodo and the Tasmanian tiger. If some of this genetic tinkering feels familiar, it's
Where are you gonna put a woolly mammoth at? That's what I want to know. Like, you can't just like plop a woolly mammoth in like Canada or somewhere. Like, cause these animals have to live in a specific environment and region, and there's reasons why a lot of these animals are extinct today, which also puts you at a point like the dodo that they showed over here, which is this bird thing. Bro, dodo is from playing video games. This is an extremely stupid bird. Why are we doing this to get more chicken? Another source of like bird that's like a chicken or something like for food. I don't get any purpose that a dodo would serve in the in this whole world or whatever ecosystem. That's the word I was looking for. I don't see how it would fit in besides something to just go around and die everywhere. It's basically, to my understanding, what a dodo is. It's basically a panda in bird form. To put it in layman's terms.
Back the dodo and the Tasmanian tiger. If some of this genetic tinkering feels familiar, it's because Hollywood has been here first. And spoiler alert, we all know that didn't end well. So naturally, bioethicists have some concerns.
When you're playing with nature, nature usually wins. Nature is much more complicated than the ability of our brains to understand it. Genes do many things. There may be a lot of unintended consequences. Let's say we alter a gene to make extra hair or to make it burn metabolism more, burn fat more. Those genes may do other things in ways that we just don't even understand. So we may create animals that have lots of medical problems. If we start tinkering with genes, we may create a super mouse, a super rat that kills all the other animals around.
And that's another problem. So, like, that comes to the point. I remember being on the phone talking about this with somebody, and they were like, yeah, what if you create superhumans this way? Like, there's a bunch of different things that are crazy about this, because you can make super animals, super anything, but you can also basically create an species in a sense that can barely live and is deformed, and you mess with it too much, and because you don't understand each genome and exactly all of its purposes and stuff. But the only way to figure out stuff like that is trial and error, unfortunately, and that's for anything in life. That's just any type of research and study, how it goes. You need to be able to understand what each little thing does. And the crazier part about this is different for each person or each thing. Like, each different species, their genetic makeup is going to be entirely different than another one. So you have to really hone down and understand each one individually fully before you can just go out here messing around cloning and doing different stuff and splicing their genetic makeup and things to be able to get to what you want. And it's going to cost a lot of lives of a species potentially to even understand it on that level. I don't know how they're exactly doing stuff like this, and it may not be of the actual species. It may be the ones that they're cloning, to a sense. Like, hey, it just came out deformed, and they, you know, have to put it down or whatever, and things. It just really depends on the circumstances and stuff, which it sucks. It sucks. That's one of the consequences of playing with life and living things, and in that sense, it seems that they're not going to talk about their struggles in this because they've gotten to some point that was a success, which is also kind of worrying and things. But that's just kind of my take on it as where they've provided us so far.
But the team at Colossal says their mission to restore extinct species is also about stopping the disappearance of endangered ones today, as experts predict Earth will lose 30% of its genetic diversity by 2050. Colossal has used techniques learned from the Dire Wolf Project to clone 4 red wolves, a small but important step in fortifying that endangered species. The 4 new wolves could help inject fresh DNA into the red wolf gene pool, which currently suffers from a so-called genetic bottleneck, the result of too few individuals carrying too little genetic variety to keep the species healthy.
Yes, it would be really amazing to see a mammoth. It would be great for the habitats of Tasmania.
There's no reason to have mammoth. We already have elephants. You start bringing mammoths around, I just don't know where you're gonna just be having these giant mammoths walking around at. Like, I'm telling you, like, you really need a certain environment to put these animals in and things, and you have to have a ton of land that hasn't already been occupied in that sense. So yeah, Tasmanians, I'd leave them crazy things alone. I ain't never heard anything good about them.
mania to have a keystone predator reintroduced into that ecosystem. But the tools that we're developing on the path to these species have immediate application to species that are not yet extinct. A future that is both biodiverse and filled with people. We should be giving ourselves the opportunity to see what our big brains can do to reverse some of the bad things that we've done to the world already.
There's a huge need to help prevent animals from becoming endangered and going extinct. We need to spend more money on conservation. Particularly now, there's a lot of threats that lands that we have as national parks and there's preserves are going to be used for drilling oil, for instance. So there's a lot of habitats where species now live that are going to be under threat. So, and there's not enough money to help with conservation efforts.
So that's pretty much what they said. So we got direwolves back. Should we be spending all our time trying to preserve other animals? Who knows? To some extent, we've already been trying to do that. Just cloning, making new ones of them. I mean, it's a cool thing. It's like a nice thing to do, per se. Like to just keep animals alive by just keep making more of them when you understand them fully on a genetic level. But there's also a bunch of risks that can come with it as well too. And some things, like, some people are definitely going to say some things are extinct for a reason and probably a good thing. Like if you bring out, like they try to say, make this smart comment about like dinosaurs and things. One thing that's different between now and back in the day, the weapons that humanity has, I think we would be able to handle dinosaurs pretty well. Like if you really think about it, like, if the military was sent out to deal with a specific dinosaur, I think they would be able to handle it. Unless they created something super crazy that was bulletproof and could survive multiple explosions. But yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share. Thank you guys for tuning in to another video of DevTalks. If you have any suggestions, send the suggestions to my email at devtalkspod@gmail.com. I'll try to pick up on anything that you guys send me and cover it as soon as I can. Without further ado, if you want to see more videos like this, click the video that be popping up right about now. And peace. See y'all next time.